Adam better watch the wind on his back. Here's your look at new McFarlane Toys, DC Multiverse, Black Adam's Cyclone. After being subjected to nanotechnology experimentation by evil scientists at just 18, Maxine Hunkel is a force of nature, literally with the ability to control the wind with her mind. As this superhero Cyclone, she brings a social justice attitude and a unique power set to the Justice Society. First, before we begin, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that not only did provide the sample of Cyclone, but also provided samples of the other 5 figures we've looked at over the last several videos. Well, 5 videos before this, the entire Black Adam wave. These figures should be available right now if you guys are interested to pick them up for yourself. Let's go ahead and get things underway by measuring to the very top of Cyclone's head. If you count the little buns on the sides of her hair, then the figure's about 6¼ inches in height, or she's roughly 16 centimeters tall. Let's see if I can actually fit these all in here. Here's what she looks like next to Atom Smasher, the last figure we had a look at. Here's what she looks like next to Dr. Fate, pardon my arm. Here's what she also looks like next to Hawkman. And then we can also bring in, of course, the Black Adam. The first Black Adam that we had a look at, the one that was the most worried about him still standing. Here's what she also looks like. Yes, he is still standing. Here's what she also looks like next to the Black Adam with his cloak or his cape and hood. Yeah. Good bunch of characters. I didn't leave, by the way, Cyclone for last because she was my least favorite figure. I think she is still a nice looking figure. There's things, of course, we'll talk about in this review, but overall, really, really happy with this wave across the board. Let's get those figures all out of the way. Let's have a look at the accessories now that come included with Cyclone. First of which, the figure comes included with a trading card. We'll bring in the other trading cards so you can see that they all stick to the same sort of illustration style. There's Cyclones, there's Atom Smashers, there's Hawkman's. As you can see, I have not put these into sheet protectors yet. I will after this review. Here's what she looks like. Almost a full house. Here's what she looks like next to Dr. Fate. And here's what she also looks like next to Black Adam. Still sticking with this sort of idea. And then standalone, all on his own, there's Dwayne The Rock Johnson's card as Black Adam that didn't come included with the cloak. Other than this one standing out again like a sore thumb, it's nice that all of these cards have stuck pretty consistent with the same design elements. And once again, it's not figure photography that they're using this time around, although this one kind of does look like they may have just digitally changed it. But they all sort of look like they were probably pulled from like an animated feature. I kind of like that. I'm going to put these cards to this side. And again, I also like the fact that the backgrounds still stick yellow. On the back, the real name is Maxine Hunkel, with a very small, one of the easiest things to read. I found on the last, several videos I've been doing of these figures, this was the easiest by far to read. You can either pause and read it for yourself. It also happens to be the same thing I read at the beginning of this video. You kidding? You're kidding us. No, I'm not. I'd never kid you guys about something like that. So we're going to go ahead and put that to the side. The figure also comes included with a display stand. She technically has 2 different ways of displaying her. You may notice this down here also as well. We'll get to that in a second. But yes, comes included with the same circular stand as before with the DC logo and 1 peg up at the top corner. And move that to the side. The figure also comes included with a Cyclone. It's kind of neat. This looks like something I've seen before, and I can't quite place my finger on it, what exactly it is. It looks like it's 2 halves, the 2 halves that are attached together. And there's actually a peg that is on the inside of this that in theory will attach to the underside of the figure's feet. Why do you say in theory? I do like the way they've colored this in the sense that it's all clear plastic. It does have some very interesting, very different looking sculpting to it. Now, actually, in the comics, ironically enough, Cyclone is actually the granddaughter of the original Red Tornado. So it's somewhat ironic that we are getting ourselves a little tornado effect. And I would be interested to see them releasing down the road a Red Tornado. Red Tornado and Martian Manhunter were one of the 2 first superpower figures I had as a kid. And seeing as we already have a classic styling of Martian Manhunter, logically, I think they could probably just use that mold and tool it slightly to give us ourselves a Red Tornado. But anyways, though, there's that peg just on the inside. What you can do, the figure does have, of course, feet holes on the bottoms of her boots. Now, it's close quarters, I will tell you this. I mean, there's a hole right there. You kind of have to have the feet really close together. Let's bring them as close together as I can get them. And you only really need to plug, obviously, the one in there. and you get this. It's interesting, it's neat, and it's a different way of displaying the figure. She does sort of lean to the one side, though, so you kind of have to make sure there you go, a little bit more straight and centered. It's a nice effect. Granted, if they were to use this, I think for a character like Red Tornado, you probably would have to have made that a little bit bigger because his boots are a little bit bigger than hers. But I do like the idea that they actually didn't include this. Like a little touch. This would have also worked quite well, a little bit smaller in size and a little bit different in shape, but actually had something similar where you could have had that wrapped around her arms, because of course she does control wind. That would be a nice touch to see as well. Getting, though, a closer look, though, at Cyclone. Not a bad-looking figure. One thing I will say, though, is I did mention earlier, there are a few little things I did want to talk about. One of which, though, is their skin tone. The skin tone, I think, in this case for the figure is maybe a tad too pale. If you've seen so far images, right now we have 2 trailers to work from, and we also have some stills online you can look up for yourself. I think she is slightly a darker skin tone than what we actually get here for the figure. The figure, I feel, is a little too pale, but I do think it's a pretty-looking portrait. I think the sculpting on the face is quite good, other than just, again, darkening the skin just ever so slightly. I do like the actual eyeshadow that they put above her eyes. The lips are nicely colored, as well as her eyes, too, really. I can't overlook the fact that she does have pretty-looking eyes. And they've done a really nice job of actually darkening the actual eyebrows above her eyes. Maybe right around here is where I feel maybe there's a little tad too much paint. I mean, it's obviously darker here. There's more areas of her hair that's a little bit more lighter of that same color. But I feel almost right here it's a little bit too... First of all, it looks too shiny, I think. And second of all, it looks as if they probably added too much paint. Because you can see like a really stark line right here at the top of her head. I mean, her hairstyle is similar to this in the movie, but I don't think it's maybe this too dark of a color. I think, again, like maybe too much of the brown was added to the top of it. But other than that, it's a really, really nice looking head sculpt. Costume-wise, it's, again, pretty accurate from what we've seen. Now, again, we don't have the movie yet to work from, but at least the 2 trailers and, again, stills online. She seems to actually have a couple of different outfits in the movie. There's this one that has the long sleeves that have these little kind of... little strings, sort of, so to speak, kind of sticking out the ends of her sleeves. But then she also has another look, it seems, where she's actually sleeveless. Perhaps that could be something that they could retool and re-release this figure down the road. A second version of Cyclone has the sleeveless outfit. This top or front section of her armor kind of keeps the same with both the cases. She has a little cyclone symbol, a little tornado symbol. I think that's kind of a fun touch. Now, this is all soft plastic. This part is soft plastic. Technically, these obviously are soft plastic as well. So it's not going to give you any problems when it comes to moving the figure around. I mean, in fact, the further you go up it, you even notice up here, too, that she has very, very, very soft plastic. So it's likely what they've done here is they've actually just tooled a brand new piece and probably put it over top of an existing DC Multiverse body, smaller in size, of course. But other than the fact it doesn't really have like a lot of paint going for it, I mean, really, again, if you look at the actual images of her costuming in the movie, the color is actually pretty close to this green. It's not even quite a green either. It's very much, well, it's a very greenish teal. Teal is a blue and a green, but it leans more, I think, to greenish teal than it does a bluish teal. But I do like the outfit. I think the outfit's really nicely handled. Again, sculpting well on the hair too, other than just, again, like the points I mentioned earlier, the littler points I pointed out earlier with the hair being slightly too dark, I think, on the top. Overall, it's a nice looking figure, though. Lower half of her, I'm just going to move her arms out of the way. It doesn't seem like there's really a whole lot of paint. In fact, there's no paint happening here for the lower legs. It's all just black plastic that they've used. Perhaps down below here for the boots, being that they seem a slight darker shade than the leg above it, they probably have painted the boots, possibly, whereas the rest of the leg has just been left alone for that black plastic. Even though there really isn't any paint happening here on the legs, I do like the sculpting that they actually at least put into the legs themselves. It's a fairly new character, too. Like, Justice Society of America, I believe, from 2006 was the first appearance of Cyclone. So if you do really the math, that's still pretty long ago. That's 16 years ago. And yet, again, when you consider her versus the rest of the Justice Society, she's still a pretty new character when you compare the two. For the articulation, though, on Cyclone, her head is on a ball joint. Now, obviously, it's going to have a little bit more problems just because she's got so much hair happening here that, yeah, you can move it back and forth this way, and you can have her looking down, and you can have her looking up. But obviously, you're not going to be able to rotate the head all the way around. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Shoulders do come out. Again, despite the fact that she does have these poofier tops to her shoulders here, thank goodness she does actually have this additional socket joint on the inside. Like all the DC Multiverse figures have it. But because she does also have it as well, it gives her just a little bit of that necessary space to allow for the arms to come out. And again, you can take those arms and rotate them all the way around. Figure does have a swivel on her bicep. Figure does have a double hinge on her elbow. And the hands do rotate all the way around. Now, you'll notice as well, this one does have a gloved hand. Fingerless gloves. Everybody was wearing fingerless gloves. And this one does not have a glove. I would have liked also if they could have included a second set of hands. Obviously, if she's going to be conjuring up the winds like this, it kind of would have been nice to actually get two sets of this kind of open hand, one on this side as well. But I guess you don't really necessarily need to have open hands on both the sides, but I just think it would have been nice to include those a secondary set of hands as well. Upper torso is on a ball joint, even though for the fact that she does actually have all this additional plastic over top of her body, or where the joint would be residing, she still manages to have an upper torso ball joint, so you can move the figure around. And it stays in that place too. I know it's so easy for me just to go like this and yeah, she does have articulation, but technically, yeah, you can leave it in those positions too. It's not just a case where it's soft, it's plastic, and you're not going to be able, you're not going to be able to keep a pose like that. Not the contrary. I mean, you can actually, you can keep a pose perfectly permanent if you really wanted to. She does seem to have also a lower waist swivel, lower waist articulated ball joint there as well. Legs are once again on a ratcheted joint. You can take the legs and move them forward and back. She doesn't have any swivel cut here at all on the top of the thigh. I mean, obviously just where the figure's articulated, where it's been assembled, there's a little bit of swivel, but there's no swivel cut anywhere in the thigh. Actually, none of these figures, now that I think about it, have not had any swivel cuts at all in their thighs. She does, though, have a double hinge on her knee. Once again, no articulation here for the boots, but she does have at least foot articulation in the ankle. You can rock it back and forth this way, and there's, of course, that toe articulation as well. Other than, just I mentioned point already that the figure, skin tone-wise, I don't think she's a little bit darker than this in the movie. I don't know why necessarily they made the skin tone so pale on her, but she's still a good-looking figure. And, of course, if you are collecting the rest of the Justice Society from Black Adam, then this is a figure that's going to fill the rest of the team. Even though her first appearance is a little more recent. Again, recent, I say 2006. I mean, when you think of how long ago 2006 is, for me to say anything in the 2000s still technically dates it by, well, in this case, 16 years ago was her first appearance. She's still a newer character in the Justice Society, but she works quite well, actually, as a figure, too. And again, just to move her over, bring back in the Cyclone effect. I do wish, the Cyclone was just a little bit bigger. And if they do decide down the road that they want to maybe retool that classic Martian Manhunter that we've gotten now in the gold label, gold edition version, I would personally love to see a Red Tornado. I mean, she is, after all, really the granddaughter of Red Tornado. I think it would be perfect not only to get a Red Tornado for your classic collection, but also get a Red Tornado that you can have displayed along with Cyclone here, too. Though the figure did come included with that tornado base that she can actually stand inside of, I want to keep things more on the simpler down low when it comes to the wrapping up the review here of Cyclone. I mean, the figure, after all, still comes included with that circular black display base, and nothing's really committing me to the idea that I always have to have the figure displayed with that Cyclone base. I might even just want to use it for another figure. I'm looking at it right now, it's just off to the camera here, and I'm thinking to myself, what if I display that along with a Flash? Kind of giving him that look like he's spinning in a tornado on the spot. I could also use that for a Flash. That's the neat thing about these accessories. Don't always feel the need that you have to commit them to the figure that they come with. Why not use them for another figure instead altogether? Now, usually when it comes to looking at waves like this, where you have multiple figures one after the other, it may seem to you, the viewing audience, that when I look to the last figure of that wave, it just automatically means that that's my least favorite figure. Not always the case. Sometimes it's also the case where I just flip that around and I look at my favorite figure from that wave because I want to keep that one for the last. It's not the case, though, unfortunately, for Cyclone. As pretty as this Cyclone figure is, just by such heavy hitters as we get already in this wave, my top three favorite figures are Dr. Fate, I would say Hawkman, and then the Black Adam without the cloak. Those are my top three. Cloaked Black Adam would probably come in number 4, and then just by process of elimination, you could probably already tell that Atom Smasher would come right after that, and then just by process of elimination, that would mean Cyclone would be at the bottom last. Still is good-looking figure, but again, when you've got such strong contenders for the rest of this wave, it just unfortunately means that someone has to sit at the bottom. Now, this figure, as pretty as she is, I do still think the skin tone is slightly too light. Again, when you look at images of her online, she has a slightly darker shade, a darker color scheme to her skin tone that I don't think quite gets replicated here for the figure. The costuming does look good, and if actually you do look up images of Cyclone from the new Black Adam movie, you'll notice not only does she wear this outfit, but there's also an image where she's sitting along with an unmasked Atom Smasher, and she's wearing a sleeveless version of this. Now, whether we are going to be getting ourselves a gold label version or a variant of Cyclone, time will certainly tell. I don't know how committed they're going to be to giving us different variations of it. I could really see, if anything, a variation for Hawkman, and maybe a variant of Dr. Fate without his helmet. Cyclone is a little more harder to believe that they're probably going to commit to the idea of giving us another version of Cyclone with just a completely different outfit. But still a nice looking figure, and of course, if you are looking to complete the entire Justice Society, Cyclone's one of those figures that you're going to want to pick up anyways to go along with the rest of your display. A big thank you, though, to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide the sample of the final figure from the new Black Adam wave. Today we were having a look at Cyclone. Nice looking figure, just bottom compared to when we look at all the other good figures that we've had to look at so far. What do you guys think of this figure? Let me know down below in the comment section. And now, of course, now that we have looked at the entire Black Adam wave, how would you put the order of your favorite to least favorite? Or what are your top 3? Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this review, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content you're seeing and certainly want to stick around for more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. Some sad news, though, for you, the viewing audience, while we have wrapped up the review for the Black Adam wave. Oh. Rest assured, though, we will still be looking at more DC Multiverse reviews in the upcoming videos. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.